Hey, you want to win more exclusives? More exclusive opportunities to represent a seller, a buyer, a tenant, a landlord? This is the tool we use at Massimo to help our clients win more exclusives. Hey, I'm Santomassimo, founder of the Massimo Group. We're the world's #1 coaching organization for commercial real estate brokers just like you. At the end, I'm going to share with you how you get in touch with us so you can start multiplying your commission income. But for right now, let's get you some more exclusives. Here's what it is. Everything at Massimo, we put in a container. Containers work. This tool we have is called and trademarked the Massimo Matrix. The Massimo Matrix has 4 parts. I'm going to outline these 4 parts for you. And in fact, if you look in the details below, there's a template that you can download to follow me. In fact, you should download it now so you follow what I'm doing, start building your own Massimo Matrix, and on your path to winning more exclusives. Okay, let's go. Part 1. Every opportunity, you have to work with a decision maker, right? And that decision maker may be a CEO, maybe a small mom and pop, maybe an institution. We don't know, but understand there's a decision maker or decision makers in every opportunity. You got to know who they are. And those folks we call the shareholders. The shareholders. Think about a stock. I own stock, therefore I have equity in a company. I am a shareholder. This is a little different. In this case, these shareholders are owners. They own the decision. Now, if it's a tenant, for example, you do tenant representation, you may be dealing with the owner of the business. That owner may have partners, equity partners in the business. Therefore, that makes them shareholders. If you're working on an investment sale, that seller owns the property. Well, that seller may have a partner in the business of the entity that owns the property. Therefore, they are all shareholders, right? Understand shareholders are the core decision makers and certainly, most likely, the main focus of your presentations, your pitches, your meetings, and likely they're the sole decision makers in the process. So shareholders, think about that. Now, if you work with institutions, obviously the shareholders are a little different. You're not working necessarily with the board, although you might, but in this case, the CEO, CFO, COO, those 3 elements, those three positions tend to be the shareholders in an institutional portfolio opportunity. So I understand my shareholders. But you have to understand this. Every single shareholder has influence by somebody else, right? If I own a property, I want to sell it, you don't think my spouse is going to have a say? Of course they are. If you have a tenant owner who occupies space in the building and they want to move, don't you think their employees are going to have a little impact on that decision? Well, hopefully they do, but of course they should. So stakeholders are influencers to the shareholder, to the decision-making process. You may not meet with the stakeholders, in most cases you will not, but you must understand them. You must understand their issues, understand their concerns, their objectives, as much as you should understand the shareholder, owner's issues, challenges, opportunities, objectives. Very important. You're thinking, Rod, why does that matter? It matters because a commodity broker, and at Massimo, we don't work with commodity brokers. Well, we work with them, but we make them authorities. We don't want any of our clients being commodities, authorities. Commodity brokers would just focus on the shareholder. Authority brokers understand the whole spectrum of the decision-making process and all the influencers, and therefore be able to articulate a solution that the owner will say, you're different. So I have the shareholders, and now I have the stakeholders. Stakeholders, again, are the influencers on the decision. Who is that shareholder going to listen to when they think about a decision? Who's going to be impacted by that decision? The shareholder may not listen to them. That's a mistake. But the fact they are impacted and will have a say. So, for example, if you decide to move your building across town and your clients don't like to commute, clients will say, I'm not coming to your building. They are stakeholders. Clients are almost always stakeholders. Same with the employees. In a building relocation, they should always be stakeholders. Now, of course, you have the other influencers, the natural ones, the financial advisors, the lawyers, if it's a building move or investment, zoning issues, architects, they'll be stakeholders. They'll have some impact on the decision. Now, I know I'm going through this really in detail because the more detailed you understand, the better you're going to be able to, articulate a value proposition that's different than everybody else. So you go, 1 shareholder, 2 stakeholder, you understand. And by the way, those names, those titles, they go, and these are titles, they go above the row in the top. They go in the top row, shareholders first, always first, then stakeholders. So now, important part about the Massimo Matrix, you're not making a matrix for an individual client, Sally Jones of Jones CPAs. No, you're making a matrix for all CPAs, making a matrix for your ideal client. Now, could you make a matrix for an individual opportunity? Of course you can, but we don't start there. We start with the general scope, the macro scope, the avatar. This is my Massimo Matrix for this type of client. And once you figure that out as best you can, then you can narrow it down to an exact client. Okay, so let's move forward. What's next? Well, next, of course, becomes the issues. The issues, which are challenges or opportunities that shareholder or shareholders are facing. Again, this is very important. Those issues have more to do with the shareholders than the stakeholders. Because stakeholders have their own issues, we get that, but it's the issues that are affecting the shareholders that impact the stakeholders that the shareholder needs to know about. Follow that? So let's give you an example. Let's go back to the tenant who wants to move their space. The tenant wants to move their space and they're looking at rental costs, right? That's an issue specifically to that tenant shareholder. Now, those rental costs component will have an impact on the employees, but the employees' impacts maybe proximity, access, those are still issues. They should be there, but those aren't the core issues. But understand those should still be issues. So most of your issues will focus on the shareholder and impact the stakeholders. Understand that. So your responsibility is to understand all the issues that are affecting that shareholder in making this decision. It's all about making decisions. It's the hardest thing for most folks to do is make a decision. So if you can put them in position to make a more educated decision, you're different. And that's what we're doing here. Now you're saying, Rod, I don't really understand the issues impacting these shareholders. That means you haven't done many deals. Because if you've done a lot of deals, and so for example, let's say now you're a investment broker representing a multifamily owner in the sale of their asset, well, maybe you've sold 20, 40, 100, 300, 1,000 apartment buildings, right? So you understand the issues. You do. And that should be really crystal clear. You know, based on my experience, here are all the issues that impact this opportunity, right? You may not know them all. Now, maybe you haven't sold that many buildings or leased that much space, you represent that many tenants or landlords. Well, now you got to figure out what are the issues. Look, no doubt one cheat code would be to go to your favorite AI tool, Claude, GPT, Perplexity, Gemini, whatever it is, and say, hey, here's who I'm representing, shareholder. Here's who influences them, stakeholder. Help me understand the issues in a sale, relocation, contraction, lease, whatever you're talking about here. Help me understand these issues impacting the shareholder. And you'll get a list of issues. Are they right? I don't know. But just don't copy and paste. Figure it out and write down those issues. Okay, so now you're 3 parts down. I've gotten the shareholders, I've gotten the stakeholders, I understand the issues. But now comes the hardest part. You gotta fill in the boxes, those intersections between shareholder, stakeholder, and issues. Those boxes in the middle, that means what is the impact of that specific issue to that specific stakeholder or shareholder? That's where those boxes fill in. This is where the magic happens. You're understanding the impact of the issues on this entity or these individuals. And then when you can articulate this, you know, did you realize that by moving across town that your employees will feel like this, this, and this, right? So you understand that by moving over here at the higher rental rate, the impact to your clients will be this, this, and this, right? The more you can say, I know who you are, I've been in your shoes, I am one up, and not in a negative way. This is Anthony Anaroni, really brilliant dude, concept of one up. I am the authority. You want to be in the authority position. You want to stand it and show that and demonstrate that you understand them. So this is where the impact really matters. Now, will you be able to fill in all the boxes? No, I don't expect you to. No one does, because you really won't know the whole landscape of what's going on. But here's the beautiful thing. During the meeting, you can bring your incomplete matrix and use that as a template to share and ask your questions. And just tell your client, a prospect at this time, excuse me, hey, I took the liberty of taking some notes. Would you mind if I refer to my notes while I ask you some questions? They never say no. So ask them that question. Now you ask your questions, right? You know, based on my understanding, who else besides you has a core play position in making this decision? You're asking who are the other shareholders? Who will have the biggest impact on you moving? Now you're asking about stakeholders, right? Who will influence your decision? Stakeholders. Then you ask an impact question. Based on the recent tax changes to an investor, how will this impact your decision to move? Shareholder decision, right? Impact, right? How will it impact your heirs? Stakeholder. By the way, the heirs, the kids, always are stakeholders in an investment decision. It just tends to be. Partners, spouses, always, always. Just remember that. Now, Rod, I'm having a hard time filling in the boxes, right? I want to understand this better. Again, that's where you have AI. Ask AI to help you determine the impact elements. And what I would do, here's a cheat code. Complete your matrix, shareholders and stakeholders, and issues as best you can. Take a picture on your phone and just send that to your favorite AI bot and ask them to help you complete the middle part, the impact on each. And tell them that. I want to know the impact of each issue on each shareholder and stakeholder and see what AI tells you. Again, don't copy and paste, but understand that now you've completed your first matrix, your Massimo Matrix. And now you're better than the other brokers. You know more than the other broker does. You've done a better job in your discovery, so when you meet with a person, it will create more value for that prospect than a broker who just walks in with a list of questions, has no idea what the answers are, and just wastes their time. Now, you become the authority. And that's where you go, the authority play, to win more exclusives. So, welcome to the Massimo Matrix. It's a fantastic tool. Our clients love it. Wins them more meetings, wins them more exclusives, and that's what we want for you. Okay, there you have it. There's everything you need to know to complete your Massimo Matrix. And just like the Matrix, we want to give you everything you need to know to make a more educated decision to put you in position, well, for greater success. And that, of course, is providing you the details of what it means to work with the Massimo Group. And all that is down below in the description of this video as well. If you think it's time that you start multiplying your commission income, do so in less time, well, we'd love to work with you. So, check it out below. Either way, complete your matrix. Until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group.